Hi, everybody. Welcome back to First and 10, brought to you by Allstate. I'm Stephen Levine in the Sporting News studio, joined on the phone this week by Sporting News college football writer Matt Hayes. Now, Matt, you assert that the team best positioned to hand Alabama a loss is a team that's never going to have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, Stephen, when you really look at it, because when you look at Florida State and what they have, not only talent-wise, but the physicality that they could bring in that game, they are a team that I think physically and athletically matches up better than anyone against Alabama, including LSU this weekend. And the unfortunate thing is you got a Florida State team with all that talent and all that ability, but they don't have the key intangible of playing in games that they should win and playing in games that they may not win. And what I mean by that is, when you look at elite teams, they win games they should win. They also win the games that they may not be able to win. And right now, Florida State is not at that point mentally, I think, where they can go into a situation like North Carolina State last month and be in a situation where, okay, here we go. We know we should win this game. It's a trap game. Let's win it. And I don't think they're there at that point in their maturation as a program to get that. And I think that's why they lost that game. But they are clearly, you look at the lines of scrimmage, they're terrific. They're physical. They're fast on the defensive line of scrimmage with Werner and Carrington on the outside. They're great at linebacker. They're very good in coverage at corner. They are guys that I think that can press Alabama offensively on that side of the ball as well. When you're looking at, obviously, A.J. Manuel, a terrific dual-threat quarterback. They've got receivers that can go win individual battles on the outside. They've got a power running game with James Wilder. They've got the exact setup of how to beat Alabama. Unfortunately, they're never going to get there. I mean, it will take basically, Stephen, an act of God for them to get there. And I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, let's look at some teams that may have that opportunity. You still have the undefeateds in Oregon, Notre Dame, Kansas State. Which of those three teams should Alabama fear the most, if any at all?
I'll go with the none.
Really?
I mean, when you look at those three teams, I hear a lot of people say, Oregon with that offense, and Oregon's, they're much better on defense. And I see Oregon, I see the same team last year that played LSU. And, until gimme putt touchdown with 20 seconds to go, LSU was beaten by 3 touchdowns. And this Alabama team is much more complete than that LSU team last year. I don't think Oregon can do it. I don't think K-State can do it. I think, you're not going to run the ball in Alabama, and that's what K-State has to do to be successful. I don't think Notre Dame can do it because, again, you have to run the ball, and they're not going to be able to run the ball. And I don't think Everett Golson's at the point right now in his career where he can be a difference maker at the quarterback spot. So I don't think any of those three could beat Alabama. In fact, I don't think any of those three could probably stay within 2 or 3 touchdowns of Alabama.
Okay, so just go ahead and write it in pen that Alabama is your national champion this year.
At this point, it would be an absolute shock, maybe the biggest shock in the BCS era if Alabama loses this year.
Somewhat shocking as well is that the USC Trojans suffered a somewhat startling defeat to Arizona last weekend, fell to 6-2 as a result. Is Southern Cal underperforming, or were the expectations unreasonably inflated to begin with?
Yeah, I think I'd go with the latter, Steve. I really believe you look at this team, they have talent, there's no doubt about that. But the reality is Southern Cal has not played well on defense in a big game since 2008. They haven't been in a situation where their defense can take over a game in a long time. And, when they start getting into big games now over the last 2, 3, 4 years, they're in situations where they got to start outscoring people. And then your margin of error just becomes completely reduced. And that's where they are right now. If they have a turnover or 2 turnovers or 5 turnovers like last week against Arizona, they're not going to win games. And that's not even a big game, that Arizona game. But I think when you look at that team, we all thought they were going to be the team that would break down the SEC, that would finally knock down this barrier that the SEC has around the BCS National Championship game, and they're not even close. I think maybe we all were hoping for someone, and we all thought that maybe the USC teams of the past was going to be a lot like this year's team. It's just not even close.
Okay, Matt. Now, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you flatly refused to discuss the Heisman race. You said, I'm not doing it in the month of October. October's over, so now, Matt, I ask you, is this trophy still Geno Smith's to lose?
No, and it wasn't then, Stephen. That was also part of, what I had said. I think everybody was jumping on the Geno Smith bandwagon when West Virginia had played 4 bad teams. They played the worst defense in college football the weekend prior, and I think Geno Smith threw, 19 touchdown passes and 4,000 yards against Baylor in that game. And everybody was saying, oh, it's a lock, it's his. I'm not even sure he's going to be invited to the ceremony at this point. So, I mean, things change in this race. And I really believe a guy that everybody is not really looking at and they kind of avoided the entire time is A.J. McCarron. If he goes into Baton Rouge and has a big game this weekend and Alabama wins big, he is going to be right at the top, right along there with Colin Klein. And I think you look at those two guys, you look at Manti Te'o at Notre Dame, those three guys right now probably have to be at an elite spot.
Well, that's it for Allstate's First and 10 this week. Keep an eye out for our game previews coming later in the week. For Matt Hayes, I'm Stephen Levine. Thanks for watching.